Hey Tiger fans, it's Mark Fitzpatrick with the Tiger Club of Kansas City. It's Tuesday, October 11th. Our guest speaker today, longtime Missouri beat writer Dave Matter from St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Dave, you've been covering Mizzou for 20 years now. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, it is, but I've seen a lot. Seen a lot of good, seen a lot of bad, and it's been fun.
We're at the halfway point of the football season. Tigers are 2-4. I think that's where you picked them to be at this stage of the season. You probably didn't think there'd be 3 gut-wrenching losses, and I think it was 4.
Yeah, it's not unfolded the way that I anticipated, other than just the final record or the mid-season record. Man, they've had chances, and that K-State game just seemed to kind of set a bad tone for just what the rest of the year could be. But now they've playing different kind of games. You're playing games where they don't show up early and then make enough of a game of it to be right there and be really competitive, and they just can't finish. So the second half's going to be really interesting. There's more winnable games, I think, but you got to finish.
Yeah. Bright spot, I think, overall, you have to say the defense has been pretty good. And really kept Mizzou in games.
If you have a really strong defense, you can stay in games. Now, they might be ugly to watch, and some of them have been, but it's such a difference from last year where it's barely competitive, and now you can control games. You can control the tempo early. It's great at home because I think the defense and the crowd kind of feed off of each other more so than offense does. So that's been a big plus.
Tigers will have this week off, said homecoming against Vanderbilt. You said there's some winnable games. Offense needs to be a little better. What else Tigers and special teams probably need to be better?
Yeah,
too.
you can't allow these kind of game-changing momentum plays in special teams. They had a big punt return at Florida that led to an easy field goal. I think Missouri saw Harrison Mevis's one bad game. Unfortunately at Auburn, but he's come back strong since then. This is just a team with very low margin for error. You can't make big mistakes in big moments by players that normally are pretty reliable, and that's kind of what's haunted them at times this year.
Let's talk about men's basketball coming up. New coach Dennis Gates seems to be doing a lot of the right things. I think you head to SEC Media Days next week on that. 9 new players out of 12. It's going to be an interesting season.
Yeah, it's kind of what college basketball has become. You've got all these new faces between the portal and recruiting, and a lot of new coaches in this league too. So it's kind of hard to get a handle on what the expectation should be for Missouri. I do think there's a lot of positivity around the program. A lot of guys are, playing up a league or up a level because they've been at kind of the mid-major level, so they're really excited about playing and proving themselves in the SEC. And I think that goes for Dennis too, being at Cleveland State the last few years. But a lot of good vibes out of that program. Now we'll see if they translate on the floor. One
kid I want to ask you about is Isaiah Mosley, transfer from Missouri State, Columbia kid. Got a pretty good NIL deal, I understand, to come up. Have you had a chance to see him play in the past?
Just at Missouri State, a little bit when he was in high school, and the guy is he's a legit scorer. I mean, he can score anywhere on the floor, really efficient shooter, exactly the kind of player Missouri's needed the last few years. They're getting him a little later than fans would have liked. I'm sure they would have loved to see him spend his whole career in Columbia, but they've got him for at least a year, and I think he's exactly what this team has needed. Just a reliable, high volume, but also efficient shooter and scorer.
And I think we're looking at Kobe Brown be kind of the fulcrum of the team there.
It'll be interesting to see how his role changes. I think he'll still play a lot. He was counted to do so many things last year. For a while he was their point guard, and then for a while he was power forward, and sometimes he's their center. So just with a different cast around him, I'll just be interested to see if he's a more productive guy.
And last question, Dennis Gates on the recruiting trail has commitments from 3 4-star kids. He's off to a good start.
And because in basketball you need 4 stars because there's a lot of them, and that's who you need to get. And you need difference makers, all top 150 recruits from all over the country too. So it's not just, he needs to rely on in-state players or even Midwest players. So he's done a really good job in that department, and he's going to be active in the portal every year, I'm sure. Maybe not as much as his first year when he had to rebuild the roster from scratch, but so far, he's done a really good job.
All right. Dave Matter, St. Louis Post-Dispatch, been covering the Tigers for a long time. Also the author of 3 books, so check him out. Dave, thank you for coming up from Columbia.
As always.
All right, folks, next week here at the Westport Flea Market, we will have Carrington Hairston from 610 Radio and former Mizzou basketball player and NBA scout Jarrett Sutton. So make sure you're here 2 weeks, Seren Petro from 810 Sports.